Here in Portugal, this is round 14 of the 16-race World Championship and the end of the European season. And if one team has dominated this year, this is it. The Canon Williams Honda team with 8 wins out of the 13 races so far. Frank Williams himself is here in Estoril, together with designer Patrick Head and their support team of race engineers and mechanics. And here beside me, as you can well see, the 2 Williams drivers, each with 4 wins to his credit, and one of whom is most likely to become this year's world champion. But which one? Championship leader, Nigel Mansell, or in second place, Nelson Piquet? But with 3 rounds still to go and 75 points to be allocated, Frenchman Alain Prost, currently 3rd, could still become the first man since Jack Brabham to win 2 successive Drivers' Championships. And Brazilian Ayrton Senna, who won here last year, could still become the youngest ever world champion. And with a brilliant lap in the last 2 minutes of practice, Senna is in pole position for the 7th time this year, with Mansell 2nd, Prost 3rd, Berger 4th, Fabi 5th, and Piquet 6th. So, all 4 World Championship contenders in the top 6. Derek Warwick is 12th, Johnny Dumfries 15th, Alan Jones 17th, Martin Brundle 19th, and Jonathan Palmer 20th for a Portuguese Grand Prix to savour.
And this start could well decide the race. It's absolutely vital for Mansell that he gets away quickly. Can he get into the first corner before Ayrton Senna? This is Christian Danner's car. And we hope we'll be seeing a lot of good race pictures from the Arrows during the Portuguese Grand Prix. And it's go. Mansell really laying down the rubber, and Mansell is in the lead. Into the first turn, Mansell is leading. Senna is 2nd, Berger is 3rd. Piquet is already up to 4th place, with Prost down to 5th position, and Teo Fabi in 7th place. So Nigel Mansell, an absolutely magnificent start. He came out very late onto the grid, forced his way through the crowd into his 2nd position on the grid, and Nigel Mansell led at the first corner.
Yes, and Mansell really got the drop. Then it's very difficult to get these turbocharged cars off the line cleanly. Mansell got the clutch going, the rear wheel spinning, and he positively streaked away. But Senna is now having a look down the inside. So Mansell and Senna are all ready to pull down a little bit of a lead.
And Mansell and Senna had big problems with each other in the Australian Grand Prix at the end of last year, and then the Brazilian Grand Prix at the beginning of this year. And Mansell's making quite sure that that doesn't happen again, or trying to, by endeavouring to ease away from Ayrton Senna. Lap 1, Mansell leading in the Williams Honda. Behind him, Ayrton Senna, winner of last year's Portuguese Grand Prix in the appallingly wet conditions. And just look at the way Mansell is going. It's Berger in 3rd place, Piquet challenging him for 4th, and then the McLaren.
The man to watch at the moment is Nelson Piquet in 4th place. He didn't qualify as well as he would have liked to. He was 6th in practice. He got a good start, but he's really on the charge. Mansell, very confident at the moment, driving very coolly, is not in a hurry. He's got off to the start that he wanted. He's got himself in front, and he's going to do things at his own pace for the moment.
And by the way, you will see a strange-looking car later on in the race, and that is Keke Rosberg's McLaren, which for this Portuguese Grand Prix has been painted a bright yellow, and that certainly solves the commentators' identification problems between himself and his teammate Alain Prost. But there, in the yellow, the blue, the red and the white Williams, Nigel Mansell, lap 2. Ayrton Senna last year in Portugal led from lap 1 to lap 67 and won the race. Is Nigel Mansell going to lead all the way? Over the line to complete 2 laps, Mansell, Senna, Berger, Piquet in 4th position, and then behind Nelson Piquet, Prost, then it's Fabi. 7th is Keke Rosberg in the unfamiliar-looking McLaren. And it's worth saying, even as early as this, that this is the last race in which Nigel Mansell can score before having to discard points. That is because there are 16 races in the World Championship, of which the best 11 scores count. Nigel Mansell has already scored 10 times. Ayrton Senna, that you're looking at in 2nd place, has only scored 8 times, as has Nelson Piquet. So after this race, Mansell will have to discard points. That's why a good finish is even more important for him than usual. And he's leading now on lap 3. This is Christian Danner's car, the Arrows with its BMW engine. And look at the boost gauge in the center of your screen. You'll see the needle move as Danner changes gear. That is cleaning fluid. It doesn't mean it's raining here in Portugal. Far from it. It's hot, humid, but absolutely dry. And Christian Danner in the Arrows car is going to be giving us some driver's eye impressions of what it's like to go round this circuit at well over 120 miles an hour average. And here it is. And Senna and Mansell are pulling away from the rest.
They certainly are, and Mansell's just beginning to put a little bit of air between himself and Ayrton Senna, and that's a situation he will like. He is not going to be giving it 10/10 at the moment. He wants to try and ease away from Senna if he can, without pushing himself or the car too much. And there's Nelson Piquet chasing hard and looking for a way round. Piquet is the man who at the moment the pressure falls on, with Alain Prost right behind him. So the World Championship contenders are all in it. But of course Berger is in the way, and I'm sure they'd like to get past him, but this is not an easy track to overtake. There's only one really decent straight here, and the cars really don't get enough time to get a slipstream and really tow past. So to overtake, you've got to fight your way past.
And there in the pits is Ghinzani in the Osella. Derek Warwick is in 13th place. Johnny Dumfries is 14th. Alan Jones is 16th. And Martin Brundle is 18th.
It's a real problem for Nelson Piquet now, and Alain Prost later. See how they close up round the corners. But of course you can't overtake in the middle of a corner. You've got to overtake on the straight or under braking. And Keke Rosberg has got past Teo Fabi in the sister car. Now Piquet is really looking for a way round, and that looks like he's done it. Piquet has got inside Berger. So now we have to see if Piquet can close the gap on Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell.
And that gap is 8.6 seconds, or was, just before he passed Berger. And yet now you can see how much Piquet was being held up, and for that matter, how much Prost is being held up by Berger. Because look at the gap between Piquet in third position now, and here's a replay of the Brazilian coming out of the slipstream of Berger's car, nipping through on the inside. Berger gives way, and now Nelson Piquet has got his foot hard down. There is Senna in second place. There is Piquet striking sparks in third place and pulling away from Prost, who's moved up to fourth ahead of Gerhard Berger. And I can tell you one particularly interesting thing, and that is that there are 4 Williams cars as Keke Rosberg in the yellow McLaren passes Gerhard Berger and goes up into 5th position. So the McLarens are starting to move up. There is Prost. And I was saying that for the first time this season, there are 4 Williams cars at a Grand Prix, because previously there was only one spare car, which Piquet had the rights to, but now Mansell's got one as well, and he's really been making good use of it during practice. Lap 10, 1/7 distance. Mansell leads by 3.9 seconds. Senna is second. Piquet is third. Berger has slipped down because Prost is now 4th. Rosberg is now 5th. Berger is in 6th position. And the flying Finn, Keke Rosberg, with only 2 Grand Prix to go after this one, the Grand Prix in Mexico and Australia, is coming up. And there is Hub Rotengatter in the background, touring in seemingly to retire. There is the tall Dutchman, huge Rotengatter, as he is known in the pit lane. And that's Alan Jones. Alan Jones out of the Portuguese Grand Prix on lap 11. Off the circuit. He was in 15th place, and that's another race run for the far from happy Alan Jones this year, who reckons he should have a lot more power from the Ford engine and is very worried about not being able to put up a good show in Australia. There he is, going off the circuit and spinning in front of his teammate Patrick Tambay, who therefore moves up into 15th place.
And I have to say, just looking at the tires on Prost's car, on Nelson Piquet's car, that I think that the track may be springing a surprise on them. Remember that track conditions change even from 10 o'clock this morning when they were out doing the warm-up. You look at the right front tyre of Prost's car, and it looks a little bit marked up on the tread. And certainly, he doesn't seem to be going quite as quickly as we would have expected as he went this morning. So I think the track seems to have got a little bit harder on tyres, and there may be some tyre troubles for the Goodyear runners. Yeah, and certainly a little bit of tyre trouble for Mansell as well. If you look at that left front tyre, you can see that half of the tread is marked up. So what he will be concentrating on now is to go very easy on the tyres to try and maintain his lead. But it is possible to clean the tyres up and take the load off them if you're very careful with them. You have to slow down a bit, you have to not slide the car as much as normal, and really look after them. And that, I'm sure, is what Nigel will be concentrating on at the moment. There we are, back in the cockpit of the Arrows. Taking the line through the corner, swinging in to make as straight a line as possible, and then swinging out wide, putting onto full power. You can see the boost gauge is on half power now, off the throttle. And up goes the needle, whoops, and that looks very nasty.
It's Martin Brundle out again, the unfortunate Englishman who has already had to retire from 6 Grand Prix in 1986. He's desperately looking for a good finish. He was in 18th place, and he's naturally wanting to catch the eyes of team managers for 1987. And now Senna was actually gaining slightly on Nigel Mansell, and let's see if he's doing it again, because Mansell is going through the back markers, and yes, Senna is now less than 4 seconds behind Nigel Mansell, and it was over 6 seconds.
You saw Senna braking at the end of the main straight then, and really charging. He's throwing everything into this and attacking.
But he mustn't attack too much or throw too much in, because although this isn't going to be a race where fuel is a desperate problem, they start this race with 195 litres of fuel and no more, but it can be a problem. And the Renault engine is not as fuel efficient as the Honda engine, which is powering Mansell's car in front of Ayrton Senna.
Prost, who's right up behind Piquet, will be looking for a way past Piquet now. We're looking for an opportunity amongst the back markers, because that very often presents the opportunity if a back marker holds you up at all for the car in front. And Prost will now be beginning to think about trying to make his move.
If Piquet loses that 3rd position and goes down to 4th, there'll be a big points gap increasing between himself and Nigel Mansell, with 2 races to go in the World Championship. And the last world champion we had for Britain is right here, James Hunt.
Now you're embarrassing me.
Lap 26, race order. Mansell leads. There is the 2nd man, Senna. 3rd is still Piquet. 4th is still Prost, but 5th, Rosberg, is dropping back. He was only a second behind Prost, but he's now 5 seconds behind him, which means to say that Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari, in 6th place, has got a chance soon, perhaps, to take Keke Rosberg in 5th position. We are now at the crucial point of the Portuguese Grand Prix. And that strap out, what a dreadful race for Ken Tyrrell. And there is Piquet in the pits in 3rd position. That is a fantastic pit stop. It's actually a bit quicker, I think, than the 7.9 seconds shown there. And Nelson Piquet goes through.
Yes, and he'll want to get away down to the first corner before those others catch him up, because he doesn't want to get behind them. He can afford to hold them up. But that was a tremendous pit stop by the Williams team once again.
I can see Ayrton Senna coming into the pits now. What? And he's in 2nd position. 7.9 seconds was Piquet's time. The Lotus team have been very, very good in recent races, but they're not as good as the Williams team. They've lost 3 seconds there to Piquet, well, 2 seconds. We talk, of course, in a very blasé fashion about 10 seconds not being a very good pit stop to change 4 wheels and tyres. Of course, it's fantastic, but anything quicker than that is almost unbelievable, and that's what they're doing these days. And here's Prost into the pits. Alain Prost in 2nd place comes into the pits at the end of his 32nd lap out of 70. That's good, 8.7 seconds.
Nigel Mansell now coming into the pits. So Mansell making his stop.
Now, Nelson Piquet's time was 7.9 seconds. This is probably the most important pit stop of the race. Certainly for Nigel Mansell it is, of course. And the Williams team stop. Now, but I've got the stopwatch running, and I'm just about agreeing with the digital. Go! 8.41 seconds. And that was just about half a second slower than Nelson Piquet's time. Absolutely nothing to worry about, because Nigel Mansell still retains his lead, goes into the 34th lap out of 70, still leading the Portuguese Grand Prix, as he has done since the lights turned to green and he went into turn 1 on lap 1.
Yes, and the exchange of pit stops amongst the leaders has actually consolidated Nigel Mansell's lead a little bit, and he really looks quite comfortably charged. And there is Senna, who has got past Prost.
And therefore the order is Mansell is leading, Senna is second, Piquet is third, and Prost is fourth. And you're looking at the battle between Senna and Piquet for second place.
Yes, that's right. Piquet's come past as well, and Piquet is now beginning to look as if he's challenging hard.
And just behind them you see Alain, Prost. So second, third, fourth, all having changed their tyres on lap 35, half distance, with the fuel load lightening, with new tyres, now well up to race temperature. They have, of course, had them heated in their special electric blankets in the pits. And there is the Lotus of Johnny Dumfries, number 11, in the pits for its tyre change, with Dumfries in 12th position. There's Senna, second, lap 37. Mansell is 10.9 seconds ahead.
Yes, they've closed very slightly, and Nelson Piquet is climbing all over the back of Senna's car. And it's very important to him for his World Championship passes to be able to get past Senna and set about chasing his teammate Nigel Mansell. Mansell, for his part, will be quite happy that Senna is between them.
So it's Williams leading, Lotus second, Williams third, McLaren in fourth place, McLaren in fifth place, that's Keke Rosberg, and in sixth position it's still Gerhard Berger in the Benetton-BMW.
The worst problem, of course, for Nelson Piquet is that the correct tactics for Senna is to concentrate on driving very smoothly and cleanly and making no mistakes, and not to hurry too much, because that way you don't make any mistakes, and that way you're very difficult to overtake. The overtaking opportunities that he could give to Piquet, the most obvious one is if he makes a little error by trying too hard. So he will be concentrating on driving slowly and smoothly rather than quickly. Piquet is getting close enough to have a look, but not quite in the braking area.
Superb Grand Prix driving between two superb Brazilians, but the even more superb at the present moment Englishman, Nigel Mansell, comfortably ahead, now 14 seconds.
Piquet, of course, will be a little bit careful about the way he goes past Senna. He, I'm sure, will be remembering the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest when they were battling for the lead, and Senna gave him a couple of naughty little carve-ups, really, that were a bit out of order and moved over on him. So that, of course, works as a disadvantage for Piquet, because he's going to be a little more circumspect than he would otherwise have to be with another driver.
There is Alliot, Philippe Alliot, retiring from the Portuguese Grand Prix.
They're coming up to that René Arnoux, and he lets them go.
Senna goes through. It's left. Big crowd reaction in front of me for something I can't see. Keke Rosberg, I think, has gone out of the race. Yes, I think Keke Rosberg's blown his engine. Well, I'll have to wait for confirmation on that. That's what it looked like to us, because the crowd in front of me has suddenly got wild, standing up, looking down the road. But we'll tell you soon, because all attention at the present moment is on what you're looking at now on lap 42 out of 70, with Nigel Mansell now 12.5 seconds ahead of this battle for second place between Senna there, Piquet there, and Prost there, second, third, fourth. It's Johansson off. That's the crowd giving us the message again. And Stefan Johansson, who was in sixth place with Berger. Berger out of the race, and Berger, who was fifth, and Johansson was sixth. Johansson has rejoined, and therefore, I imagine, got up to fifth place. But Gerhard Berger spins off in fifth place, and the unfortunate Austrian again is going to fail to finish, but has definitely made his impression on the race, as he has done in the last two, and is being strongly tipped to have a place with either Ferrari or McLaren next year. Piquet is showing his car to Senna, who doesn't like it.
Yes, I thought Piquet was going to have a real go then. When he moved over to the right, or to his right, I should say, that was a feint. And I thought he was going to dive to the left, but he just can't get close enough. He cannot get beside Senna on the straight. Prost sitting just behind them. He's picked up a lot of oil on his car. If you look at Prost's car, you'll see the white is very grubby indeed. And that means that the two cars in front of him, or one of them, and Nelson Piquet now is having a go, but he's still got to battle Senna under braking, and I'm afraid we didn't see it.
Oh, for heaven's sake, let's have a look at it, because has Piquet taken that second place? We're looking at Uncle Tom, Cobley and all, and where is the battle for second position? Nigel Mansell is in the lead, and here they come towards us, and Piquet did not get it. Senna is still there, and Prost is right up with them again, and they are on lap 49. So our Portuguese producer was not really fast enough on the buttons there, to put it mildly, and you missed an exciting moment, but there's going to be plenty more of them in the remaining 21 laps, including the one that they're on in this Portuguese Grand Prix. And all the time, as Senna versus Piquet versus Prost goes on, Nigel Mansell in the lead is benefiting. He's got a lead of now over 14 seconds. It's come down just a whisker, but that's nothing out of 15. And he's driving an utterly calm race, controlling things from the front, while these three, and in particular Senna there and Piquet, battling for second position, are denying each other the best possible line, which Mansell is able to take all the time. The same thing applies to Prost. And here is Stefan Johansson with the yellow flashes on the front and rear aerofoils of his Ferrari in sixth place, about to be engulfed by the quite magnificent Nigel Mansell. And more than anything else, I think, more than his skill, more than his car, more than his seemingly, very likely to put it mildly, certain fifth win of the season. Yeah, but all sorts of things can still happen. Don't take that as read, but you can take as read that Mansell is not only the fastest man on the circuit, but continuing to break the lap record. Nothing is stopping the flying Englishman. And the race order on lap 56 now is Mansell, 18 seconds. He's just inexorably inching away from this battle. Still Senna second, still Piquet third, Brazilian second, Brazilian third, Englishman leads, Frenchman fourth. There he is, Alain Prost. Bit of a bump at the end of the straight there. Quite a big bump coming into that long straight, which throws the car offline. They all know it, of course. Now, James, at this stage, Piquet, of course, will probably be having a problem with turbulence from the rear wing of Senna's car, which makes it extremely difficult for him to get through.
That's right, of course, because the cars depend on their wings to push them down onto the road, and therefore they depend on going through clean air. Now, by virtue of following Senna, Piquet's driving through pretty much a hole in the air made by Senna's car, and he doesn't get as much downforce, and this, of course, makes overtaking yet more difficult, because as soon as you get really close to the car in front, your car loses grip, and you can't get the power down, and you can't get onto the straight so fast. And this is very much the problem that Nelson is having. He's in the aerodynamic turbulence from Senna, and he just can't quite get himself alongside. He needs to be able to get the car about halfway alongside Senna on a straight when they get into the braking area to be able to attack him under braking.
There's Nigel Mansell. We haven't seen him for a long time. But this is what he has been looking like. Blue dot Mansell leads, green dot Senna second, yellow dot Piquet third, and you can see how close that is. Red dot Alain Prost in fourth position, and it's starting to look as though, unless there is a mechanical problem, it's going to stay that way, because Piquet has been trying so hard for so long. And there's the man of the race, absolutely no doubt about it. You got a good look at the tyres there, James? Didn't look as though there were any problems to me.
Yeah, they're much as they have been throughout the race, which quite clearly has been perfectly all right. They look a little bit scuffed, but it's certainly not slowing Nigel down, and he's still slowly, gently extending that lead.
And really charging Nelson Piquet. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he is now the fastest man on the circuit. He's got past Palmer, now he's flying in order to catch up Senna again. But we know what's happened in the past. We've been watching it for lap after lap. He may catch Senna, but catching is one thing, passing is another. And off goes Piquet. He really was trying. Now that's blown it. That's really blown it, and you may well have seen Nelson Piquet there losing all chance of winning the World Championship.
And I'm just about to say, before he spun then, that his front tyres aren't looking very healthy. But that was something that a driver of Nelson's experience should have felt, and that was clearly a bad mistake by Nelson Piquet. So Piquet now drops back behind Alain Prost. Here we see it again. Just letting the back of the car get away from him, failed to correct the slide off into the dirt, and that really hurts Piquet's chance of the championship a lot. A big breather for Nigel Mansell, though, because that helps his chances. It will enable him to extend his lead even further. Remember that Nelson Piquet was his nearest rival, and he's now dropped back to fourth place. So the best he can do is 3 points, really, because he's very unlikely to be able to catch Senna or Prost.
Did you get the import of that? Alain Prost has got ahead of Nelson Piquet and up into third position. So the race order now on lap 65, as into the pits comes Riccardo Patrese, is Nigel Mansell leading by 16.5 seconds from Ayrton Senna second. Alain Prost 6 seconds behind Senna in third position, and now 11 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet, who is down to fourth. Fifth is Alboreto, Ferrari. Sixth is Johansson, Ferrari. Johnny Dumfries in ninth position. Looking at Nelson Piquet in fourth position, no doubt furious with himself inside his helmet and the superheated cockpit of the Williams Honda. A race very much in its closing stages. Nigel Mansell on his way to his fifth magnificent victory of 1986. He crosses the line now, and you can see how humid the atmosphere is. Now we are with the almost certain winner of the 1986 Portuguese Grand Prix, which in 1984 was won by Alain Prost. Last year was won by Senna. This year, question mark, almost certainly by Red 5, Nigel Mansell.
Yes, and Nigel Mansell, after a blistering start, he got the drop on Ayrton Senna from second place on the grid, and really he's completely dominated this Grand Prix. A little bit helped by Ayrton Senna behind him, who I think was holding up Nelson Piquet for a while, but Piquet eventually, in his frustration at being unable to pass Senna, made a mistake of his own and had a spin. And Nigel Mansell, never very far in front, always under pressure, always having to drive hard, never more than 20 seconds in the lead. And Mansell really has shown great maturity in this race. Never put a foot wrong. And now coming serenely home to a well-deserved win. Able to ease up a little bit now. Senna runs behind him in second place. Senna also drove a very mature race. He held on to his second place all the way, and Mansell takes the checkered flag.
Yes, Nigel Mansell, overjoyed with every conceivable reason, takes his 5th Grand Prix win of 1986 to increase his World Championship score to 70 points, to make it more than likely that he is indeed going to be the first British World Champion that we've had since James in 1976. So Nigel Mansell wins a magnificent 5th Grand Prix in 1986. Now, where's Ayrton Senna? Ayrton Senna should have been home second by now, but he's gone missing. The seconds have gone by, and Senna is missing. And it's Alain Prost that finishes in second place. Nelson Piquet third. And oh, what bitter luck. Ayrton Senna cruising. It looks as though he's run out of petrol. And he finishes in 4th position.
So a magnificent 5th victory for Nigel Mansell, and what an exciting second place finish. Alain Prost taking it ahead of Nelson Piquet 3rd, and down to 4th place went Ayrton Senna, with Michele Alboreto in 5th position and Stefan Johansson 6th. And that means to say that Nigel Mansell now leads Nelson Piquet in the Drivers' Championship by 10 clear points, with Alain Prost in 3rd position and Ayrton Senna in 4th place. And as far as the Constructors' Championship is concerned, Williams, of course, have won it by a country mile. And it was a weary but very happy Nigel Mansell that I spoke to after the race.
For certain, you keep saying it's the hardest race, but it is the hardest race, so I got cramp in my back now. Because it was the most important race of all year, because we're coming to the end of the year and only 2 more races to go, and with Nelson and Alain, the current world champion, right behind me, I just had to win if I was going to keep in touch.
You can win the championship in Mexico.
Let's hope so. I'm not thinking about it still, Murray. I've done the best job I can today, and it's got me 9 points. Unfortunately, at the next race, we've got to start dropping points. So I don't know, there's still 2 races to go.
Nigel, the thing that's impressed us all enormously is the way you've been able to resist this fantastic pressure, particularly against Nelson Piquet.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just a shame Senna didn't finish 3rd today, isn't it? No, there is a lot of pressure there, but we're one of the best in the business. 26 drivers are all good in the world, and we're there to resist pressure as well as drive good.
3 weeks before Mexico, how are you going to spend the time?
I'm going to have a rest for a few days, but we are going testing. I won't tell you where, but we're going testing pre-Mexico at altitude to try and get the car set up quite good in the thin air.
Well, in all of this season, your wife, Roseanne, has been a pillar of strength to you.
More than that. She's kept me sane.
I will fight until the end, but I must admit that to be very realistic, I think Nigel is world champion today, but it's not finished yet.
Well, in 3 weeks' time, the Grand Prix scene returns to Mexico, and it's 16 years since a Grand Prix was held there. And in fact, only 12 weeks ago, the new circuit was still being built. So let's hope that it's in good shape for the last but one round of the 1986 World Championship. But to sign off from Portugal, and to show you that even when the tension is high, the Williams team can still be light-hearted, have a look at what happened when we tried to put together the beginning of Grand Prix. Good night. Here in Portugal, this is round 14 of the 16-race World Championship and the end of the European season. Here in Portugal, this is round 14 of the 16-race World... And here beside me, as you can see, are the 2 Williams drivers, each with 4 wins to their credit, and one of whom is most likely to win the World Championship. But which one? Championship leader, Nigel Mansell, or second, Nelson Piquet?
That's enough!